How did you decide to begin leveraging a real estate team as well as a mortgage team while you're also investing? How does that all play together?
When you start really thinking about it, you start really focusing on what your goal is. And then what's in alignment with the goal matters, and what is not in alignment with the goal doesn't matter.
How are we leveraging kind of an office format where you don't have to be in the office every day and all this kind of stuff like a lot of traditional offices, but we have this hybrid model that works extremely well. And as a result, we have some huge high-level players in our office.
So we built this culture center, is the environment of winning. It is a leadership development disguised as a real estate brokerage, because being a realtor is so much more than just transactional sales of a buyer and seller. This is the genesis of why I was so disgusted with all the brokers that were out there at the time when I was a broker.
What if I took away your MLS access tomorrow? Would your business survive? Would people still call you? Would your name still carry weight in the marketplace? Well, today's guest didn't just build a sales business. He built a brand that attracts opportunity with over 250 transactions per year, over 420 Zillow client reviews, and a few $1 billion in transaction exposure. He's not operating at random. He's operating with leverage. Welcome back to the Leverage Lounge. Today, we're joined by Gil Ramos, a digital-first operator and a team leader of Team Great and multiple teams throughout Central Florida. Gil has built a recognizable personal brand, blending real estate education, leadership, and lifestyle into one consistent message across multiple social media platforms. But here's what stands out. This isn't just visibility. This is scale. So let's get into it. All right, Gil, welcome to the Leverage Lounge. How's it going?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Let's go.
That's a lot of words, man. But I mean, it's funny because there's so much more to it than that. When I think about it, like, I'm a father of 6 kids.
Yeah.
I'm a husband. I've got a huge family too, like lots of cousins, nieces, and nephews and stuff like that. And then I've got this monster business. And the crazy about it is, since the title of the show is Leverage, you would think that I have like no downtime whatsoever. You would think that I have like a crushing schedule.
Yeah.
And the truth of it is, that's how I started. And what happens is, as you start leveraging your business, and most people only focus on 2 things. They think leverage only means time and money, and it's actually not the most important parts of the leverage, because you can run out of time and you can run out of money. So it's the other things that you bring to the table, the missing 2 pieces of leverage that we'll talk about a little bit, that actually make everything expansive, that allows it to be exponential, so that you're not working 24 hours a day or 20 hours a day, 18, the way I used to, and you start working the minutes that matter. And that's where it really gets to a spot where you can start enjoying life and enjoying your free time, and actually making the most of the minutes when you're actually on your game, when you're actually doing something what I call dollar productive, because everything else is just time going by. So, dude, thanks for inviting me onto Leverage Podcast. You're an awesome speaker. So I'm looking forward to this jam session with you.
Yeah, me too. Now, you own and manage multiple teams. As you mentioned, your teams span across like real estate, mortgage, and so many other things. I mean, you're an investor. So let's talk about that. How did you decide to begin leveraging a real estate team as well as a mortgage team while you're also investing? How does that all play together?
Yeah, I think when you start really thinking about it, you start really focusing on what your goal is. And then what's in alignment with the goal matters, and what is not in alignment with the goal doesn't matter. So I said, okay, well, if my goal is to, obviously in the very beginning, keep the lights on, feed the family, whole like that. But then I started going into, okay, once I achieve that goal, what's the next goal? And then what's the next goal? What's the next goal? And you start thinking about legacy, and you start talking about time freedom. And you start thinking about like, what's necessary for me to do that within my lane? I don't sell insurance. I don't do this. I don't do that. I just say my lane. I'm a real estate guy. While I know a little bit about crypto, just enough to make myself dangerous, I'm a real estate guy. That's the only thing I'm really qualified to do. For the last couple of decades, that's where I've specialized. And there are certain things that kind of work together, like mortgage and real estate and teams and leads and conversion and script writing and things of that nature. And so I just stay in that stuff. So I found that if some things kind of work together, So if I wanted to get a real estate deal and I needed money, so
Yep.
one of the things that stops my clients from actually saying yes was credit, cash, and fear. I had to have solutions for those. So I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to give them my cash, so let me go find them cash. I partnered up and created a magical experience in the mortgage space called Magic Mortgage and helped my clients get some money. We helped them with some credit repair and things of that nature. And we educated them. We inspired them to make the decision so they can actually move forward in their home ownership, but mostly it's just in life, in their freedom, in the wealth that they're trying to build, the legacy they're trying to build. Like we call it a house, but what does it actually represent? The same thing I'm trying to accomplish, they are. Whether how much of a scale are they looking to do? Are they looking to just scale like I just want protection for my family, or do I want protection for generations?
Yeah.
That's where we kind of say, okay, well, we meet the customer. What do they want to do in the period where they're at? Because in the first period of their life, they're like, I'll just want like 4 walls that I control. And then they were like, okay, well, now I want to kind of expand this stuff. And some people are like, I see the vision right now. I'm 20 years old. I see the whole lifetime right in front of me. And some people are like, I'm enough for this. Just give me a backyard. So we'll work with them.
Yeah.
And then we started just working through that stuff. And that's where, for me, I realized I was like, oh, real estate's enough. I was plagued by the hustler mentality where I did everything. I just came to realization that if Uber was around when I was hustling back in the business in the beginning, I probably would have Ubered because I did anything and everything that could make me $1.
Whatever it took.
Really focusing on $1 million.
Yeah.
So I'd make $1 here, $1 there, $1 there, but it was never good at much of anything exceptional. I was a great B player, but I would never made the NBA, would never been in the NFL. I would have been on that second league roster in the European League or something of that nature. So just good enough to have a little bit of fame, but I wasn't taking back to fortune. So I learned how to leverage those extra key components because I didn't have enough time in my hustle days. And this is where you really have to pay attention. The first parts of leverage, my hustle days was all about my time. I'm going to outwork everybody. But the truth of the matter is you get to 20 hours, 22 hours, 23 hours, you're done. You can't out hustle anybody to 25 hours until you start putting money in your hustle and you start borrowing other people's time to add to your clock. So now it's your hustle and your money trying to buy you more time. And then you start really developing that third level of leverage, which for me is skills. You see, when you start going through and you start doing 23 hours a day or 27 hours a day or 40 hours a day, because you've got other people working with you side by side, building the empire, you start learning some new skills and you start identifying, okay, what works? How can I be more efficient? How can I work even faster? And then you start bumping into the fourth wall, right? So the fourth wall, after the collective skills that we're all going to have, like you mentioned, those Zillow reviews, those aren't all mine. Some of those are my teammates and stuff like that. So we have all those skills and we put them together and we built our systems. And then we found systems creating more efficiency. And I can put my dollars straight to that systems line, which I always say, if you're looking at a multi-million-dollar producer, like a net multi-million-dollar producer, the only difference between them is how many systems do they have. You said, if I lost the MLS, would I be okay? Yeah. I got 19 other systems that I'm working on now that can reproduce everything that I want. So, or in the beginning of my hustle, like that was so important. You take that away from me, I don't know how to operate. Now I have systems that have a redundancy that can recreate that experience that I can leverage to be able to do that on multiple terms, on multiple teams at the same time. And, now we live in a world of AI where we can do so many more things at the same time, and I continue to leverage. So I would say if you're watching this and you're like on the space of like, I need to make 2026, understand leverage requires 4 things. It takes your money, it takes your time, it takes skills, and it takes systems. And the beauty between the two, and I kind of almost put it like the Robert Kiyosaki, he talks about the employee versus self-employee and the business owner and the investor. Like skills and systems are the tools of the investor and the owner. They're the things that you let go of from that employee mindset where it's just money and time, because that's all you're focused on. How much time can I give to this corporation to make this much money? When you start going into that next quadrant, it's all about skills and system. But here's the craziest part. They don't even have to be your skills. What I learned along the way was I could borrow somebody else's skills that was way more creative. I could borrow somebody else's skill that was way more accountable towards making sure every penny's in the right spot. I can borrow somebody else's skill that was a better copyright. I can borrow somebody else's skills. So that allowed me to say, okay, I have every skill possible. There isn't a skill that I can't have because I can borrow somebody else's skills. And all I got to do is put the system together. Once you get the gears to work, man, everything works. That's how you can do I think currently we're running 4 teams right now at the same time. and some people in different markets. We've got 2,000 people in the organization and still have everybody kind of running because of systems. And not all the systems I have that I own, but I use other people's systems too. So that's the key, is understanding and then kind of letting some of that free will of all of your systems and all your skills and all of the people that you're working with do their magic too, because you're never going to be able to do it all.
Let me ask you this. I think you're right on top of it. Like with leverage, we're talking systems, we're talking people. Most people, when you talk about leverage, they're thinking about capital alone. Like, how do I leverage the capital alone? But we're well beyond that. So we're talking people, systems, how we leverage our time, leverage other people's time as well. So I want to back up. Before the brand, for the team, who was Gil Ramos as an agent?
I've gone through a lot of iterations of who Gil Ramos was. It's funny because my son once told me, that's easy for you to say you're Gil Ramos. I'm like, what do you even think that means? And early in my brand was, I'm going to outwork everybody. I'm just going to answer my phone as much as possible. I'm always going to be available. And my brand was Gil Can Help. It is kind of funny to say now, but I had this cool website because nobody had websites back in the day. My website was called Gil Can Help. That was it. And I had plumbers on there and things of that nature. And I had like my favorite contractors and my favorite restaurants. And I would just put it on there. And I was like, dude, whatever you need, doesn't even matter if it's in the real estate industry. I'm your guy. I was the guy you had to know to get what you wanted. You wanted to find out what the best piece of, I was that guy. I was just that guy. I always answer my phone. I'm going to show up at your house. I'm that guy. I'm going to outwork someone. And then I remember going downtown and there was this, I hope this guy's still in business, but there was this attorney advertising he was the 24-hour attorney. And I remember saying to myself, I don't want to be that guy. And then I thought to myself, oh, I'm that guy. And I was like, oh, okay, I need to fix something. I couldn't see it in myself, but I saw it in that guy who was advertising as a 24-hour attorney, and myself like, who's answering the phone 24 hours? Then I realized he had some systems and he wasn't really answering the phone, but it was that startling understanding that this guy was giving away his whole life. And if he's giving away his whole life, what do you have left? So then I was like, okay, well, how do I fix that problem? How do I make myself less accessible? Which was really kind of the first part of that, and make other parts accessible. I called the 24-hour hotline he had, and it was some lady answering the phone, who, by the way, he said he wasn't available. That's why she was answering the phone.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I started thinking that way. It's like, well, I need to make myself unavailable, but I need to make myself available to anybody and everybody. So I started building landing pages and just text lines and stuff like that, but I didn't have to be the so-called answering service. That was the first iteration change. So I went from that guy who did everything to the guy who decided I didn't want to do anything. And it was a funny joke. I told my wife one day, I was like, you know what my goal is? My goal is to do nothing, but get paid like I'm doing everything. And it was a funny joke because she argued with me. My wife's an attorney, so she has to argue with me about everything.
Of course.
And we almost have like warfare energy towards like trying to solve a problem. But you know, I love her like all passion. We don't argue to like hurt each other. We argue just because we're just intellectual nerds.
Yeah,
really
challenge each other.
But she was like, you can't get paid to do nothing. There's something you must do. I tried to prove her wrong, but she was right. The truth was like, you still have to do something.
Yeah.
You can't get paid to do nothing. I couldn't figure out a way to get paid to do nothing, but I figured I could do less and get paid more. And when I figured that part out, that was the next stage. You see, it was always just like one more level I had to solve to kind of figure out, what do I got to do to get to that guy, the guy who's sitting in front first class in that cool chair with that cool watch, which I'll tell you that story one day. Would like, it's always one more pain away. And I'm still with that. Like I see other guys are like who figure something in my mind, like they figured it all out. So I'm trying to, how do I solve this next pain? How do I solve that next pain? And there's a few things I'm struggling with right now, but I can tell you every single one of those, I want to solve that.
Yeah.
I want to solve that. I want to solve it forever. I don't want to solve it temporarily. I want to solve it with a system, because once I have a system, it's solved forever in my mindset.
We're talking a lot about systems. What's an early mistake that taught you the importance of systems? Like, oh, I got to fix this.
I can tell you, I remember specifically, I had a client who I called them back as to why they didn't hire me. And it was basically because I missed their call, which was freaking crazy because I answered this call like all the time. And then one day he went to an open house and I didn't answer my call and he hired somebody else. And I thought I had so much invested in that relation that was impossible, that he could go to somebody else. And I was like, oh, if everybody's going to depend on me answering the phone, it's impossible. So somebody had to answer the phone all the time. That was one thing that I learned the hard way. And by the way, that was would have been one of the bigger deals I could have done. So I was really investing in this guy for a long time. I ended up doing business with him later on, but it was a valuable lesson. Like when somebody needs me, they need to at least feel like I'm always there, even if I'm not.
Yeah. So what was the first inflection point where you realized that, because again, you're doing a lot of things, but you found a way to put systems and people in place to make sure that you're not being overly stretched. Like you said, you got 6 kids, you got your wife, you got a lot going on. But what was the first inflection point where you realized production alone wasn't enough?
Yeah, my kids eat a lot every day,
Yeah.
multiple times a day. You know, when you have 6 kids, beyond the fact that they don't have the same personality, they also don't have the same food taste. And then they also get these things like allergies. So in my house, we have 4 different types of milk.
Oh. Oh man. Who does the
And
grocery shopping, by the way?
today, everything is the card today.
Okay,
Like,
all right.
so nobody's
Leverage.
actually, nobody goes to Publix anymore. I
Okay.
think I've been at Publix like 4 times a year, 5 times a year. It's always because there's something I just wanted to go grab and I want to look at it, like a flower or something of that nature. But yeah, so the bills were getting really high, and we're just trying to do things on whatever we know. Here's a great story. I realized we were eating out on Uber Eats a lot. And my wife went through and did my statements and said, do you know how much money we spend on Uber Eats? And I wanted to avoid the conversation because I thought that buying food to the house or sending pizza to the house or something like that was saving us time, and we allowed more time for family, stuff like that. But we're eating terrible and things of that nature. And she's like, I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but it was like $1,800 a month. But like, when you think about that, that's not a lot. That's like 7 times ordering Uber Eats in a family of 6. I mean, you order 5 guys, and for 6 people, that's $150. And that's not even ordering a drink. Right?
Yeah.
It's just,
well, I mean, I did the math. I'm like, well, 6 kids, that's like $300 per kid for a whole month. Like, that's not that bad. And that doesn't even include YouTube. So the average is actually lower.
And that's with us. Like, we don't order fries. Like, I put the fries in the air fryer. We have our own drinks. So like, I just burgers, right? Or pizzas or wings and things of that nature. So I realized that we're $1,800. You can have a chef cook for you for the whole month. So there's leverage, and then there's smarter leverage. Well, the chef actually comes to my house once a week, goes in my refrigerator at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and looks at my refrigerator, sees what ingredients I have, goes shopping, goes buys the ingredients, and he cooks for the week for us for $1,800 a month.
See, that's the stuff we're talking about.
$400 a week it cost me, plus groceries, but like, actually it's probably like $300 because I think we pay him $40-50 an hour or something like that. I found this app called Friends That Cook. And he's an actual chef, and he comes to the house and he cooks us our meals, and we can't wait. Our chef is named Chris, and he comes on Tuesdays and he cooks for us the whole week. But that was from identifying, okay, we can eat better for less money and have the foods that we want in our house with love, versus like you order Uber Eats and you're like, some 16-year-old kid is pissed off at his mom and dad is making my hamburger.
Yeah. Or the kid who's bringing your Uber Eats and eating your fries on the way to your house, taking a bite of your pizza.
So what I realized, again, it was that constant progression. How do we make this even better? How do we make this even better? Stuff like that. So sometimes leveraging money wasn't making more money. It was just using the money we had smarter. And then the biggest thing, and I want to get to this because I feel like nobody really talks about this portion, was like, I grew up broke in the Bronx. My dad didn't grow up with his dad. He barely finished high school. My mom had community college, but my parents worked. So my growing up, I believed one thing: hard work did not equal freedom, because my parents worked hard. And so like, what I realized was hard work and the right things equaled freedom. So I had to really figure out, where do I put my hard work and where do I leverage everybody else's hard work so I can get the freedom that I wanted? And that was hard for me to understand, because at the beginning I wanted to do everything. I was a control freak. And now I see people arguing about, I don't want to pay a transaction coordinator fee. You want to save $300?
Right.
Are you crazy? And they're like, well, that's $300. And this is a real conversation. I mean, I don't want to make light of this, but like, they're like, well, the $300 can feed my kids. I'm like, do you know what your time can feed your kids?
Yeah.
Like, go do another deal. Pay for it. Somebody else can do that, and keep moving forward. So I just had that argument yesterday, so it's fresh in my mind. But, it was always about like, how can we be more efficient as a family? What skills do we have? What can we do together? What can we do to continue to move to the next level? And we didn't have it all figured out And we bumped into a lot of mistakes along the way. I can guarantee you that. But I can tell you, it's like, you have to believe something you're not willing to believe right now, is that you were meant for greatness in a level that doesn't require you to understand how you get there. And that was a blind faith that everyone must have. I don't need to know how I'm going to get there. I just need to know that I was intended to get there, and that if I just do the right things, the results will come. And in that evolution of an entrepreneur has to be the genesis of faith, because if you look at every skyscraper in New York City, I always say this all the time, every one of them was built on faith. Not one of them was built on dollars or sweat equity or anything. Somebody had to have the courage to say, I'm going to build this building right here and this spot right here, and we're going to figure out the rest of it.
And it's going to work.
And it's going to work. It's going to work. And you know what? And it may not. And you have to be willing and accepting that not every idea works out. Some people build skyscrapers on I-4 and they don't get finished. Right?
Yeah, and it just sits as an eyesore for many years.
But maybe that wasn't their end all be all. Maybe there's something else. I mean, like, how many people figure things out after they're 50, 60, 70 years old because they didn't have enough skills? If I would have read books when I was 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and not started reading books when I was 40, I would have figured things out way earlier. So the only way you get skills is by examining everybody else's skills, by reading books, going on these podcasts, and learning for what somebody else went through. So when you read these books and you're reading through people's chapters in their life and you start skimming through those chapters, you're actually taking their life experience inside you and you speed up time. That's where you can kind of just dump into that quadrant of skill. I'm going to get more skills. I'm going to get more skills. But I only used to get skills by hard work. Doesn't work. If you're only going to get skills by you spending your time doing it, it's not going to work out. You got to have somebody there who's done it before, somebody who's actually can say, okay, let's just move past this spot. I used to say that. Let's say this instead.
You know, you said something about faith that I think is so important, because in our office, and we'll talk about our culture center here in a second, but you run a culture center in Orlando, Florida, that I'm a part of. And one of the things that we talk about often and live out truly is personal development and increasing our faith, increasing our belief. But you also state that you weren't always that guy. You didn't always think that way. But now it's just a part of who you are, your fiber, your being. Every time you're speaking on stage, every time you and your wife are speaking together, you guys are always talking about belief and faith and the importance of that. So let's talk about that. Like, when did belief begin influencing how you led your business?
I think part of it was you start leveraging other people's stories. You see, that guy's doing it, so it must be possible. And then you start adopting some of their beliefs, and they're not yours yet. And it sounds arrogant to say, but everyone should be thinking of this, because there are no extraordinary people. There are people who are super smart like Elon Musk, but like in the realm of things, there's nothing extraordinary. There's only one thing that's extraordinary, and it doesn't walk the earth. Like, I look at that person can do it, I can do it. I got to figure something new. But I can tell you, it happened many times where I felt like I need to adopt a new belief. I can't do it on my own right here. So I put myself in environments like a Tony Robbins environment. My wife and I went to Tony Robbins back in, let's see, it was probably mid 2014, 15, something like that. And we went into that environment and we were not Tony Robbins people. We totally...
Wait, did you realize that before you went, or did you realize that once you were there?
The moment we got there.
Yeah. His events tend to do that.
We were not open-minded. We realized that we did not have affluent thoughts. We were definitely destructive to our own success. And while we thought we talked a great game, there was so much more in that expansive, like,
unlimited
space of like just growth. And you start borrowing the stories of other people and understanding what they did to get to where they're having. Like, you just become a junkie for it. And you're like, I want so much more of this feeling. I want so much more of this unlocking. That helped us a lot. And we also did like the relationship training, like Date with Destiny together. And I think that probably in our relationship, the biggest benefit we did was we grew together. We read together.
So important.
We experienced things together. It's not like we were like high school sweethearts. We were like we're going to create a new life together. We're going to experience brand new things together. And we looked for things like, if you guys know me and my wife, Lorena, we celebrate like a lot of different things. Like we have an anniversary from when we first started dating, and we have an anniversary when we got married.
That's right. You guys
So
have
I'm
two anniversaries per year.
Yeah. So she's responsible for the wedding anniversary, which is typically like the man's responsibility to come up with that shit. By the way, we switched it before. It's not always the same. Like I'm responsible for the dating anniversary, and we switch it back and forth. And what that means is like, you're responsible for making sure we have a magical moment. And then I'm going to beat your ass. The next one, I'm going to make
you guys compete against each other for the better experience.
So how fun is that? I would tell you, it's like, we were seekers. And I think that's what you have to understand is like, you've got to have a seeker's mentality. And the seeker's mentality is different than the hustler's mentality. And it's actually different than even what they call the winner's mentality. The seeker's mentality understands is like, I am capable. I just don't have everything yet. And I think yet has to finish a lot of the sentences where you feel like you're less than.
Yeah.
So whenever you're feeling less than, it's like something I don't have yet, but I'm capable of getting it. When you start really doing that only in one lane, you start speeding through that lane. And you start like just traveling like a Tesla through the lane, because like my wife and I have a toxic habit of like, we'll even say this out loud. My brother-in-law graduated from medical school, and we both looked at each other like, I could have done that. I could have done that.
I definitely could have done that.
I could have done that.
Yeah.
Right? But it's not in my lane.
Yeah.
I only worry about doing my dane. So I don't have to worry about like what you're doing or what I'm doing. I'm just gonna do what I'm doing in the lane. So if I see somebody in my lane, I'm definitely doing that. If you're in my lane, you're doing something that's in my lane, I'm going to do that.
Oh, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that, man. I love that your wife, she truly does live this out. I mean, and I've seen her talk to especially women about, relationship and regaining their power. And they do all of the meditations, and they'll go on these retreats and all that stuff. And again, just leveraging the community that she's built and how important that she realized, and you talked about it as well, but just how important people are, just being more human. And it's something that we talk about often. This is beyond the numbers. This is true connection, which I think a lot of people miss on their way to building a business. Either maybe they try to scale too fast, or again, we talked about the hustle mentality, hustle, go, go, not realizing that they're creating bottlenecks, and maybe not in their business, but usually in their business, but also in their own life. I know a lot of top performing agents, and I know you know this as well, being a broker yourself. A lot of top performing agents are on their second, third, fourth divorce. Their kids have grown up without them. They got the money, they got the awards, they got the recognition, but they left a few things behind along the way. And I think it's important that we put the systems and the things in place in order to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yeah. And in that hustle, you can make a lot of mistakes. Like I call it the barbershop hustle. I don't know if you realize, like, I'm sure you realize this. I mean, you're pretty loyal to your barbershop guy, but the rest of the world, there was like this last 5, 6, 7 years on TikTok and stuff like that. They're like, oh, I'm $100 barber. I charge $300 for a cut. And they went to this idea, I just charge more. And what they forgot was, I am more for my consumer. I am more for them. I am more valuable for them. And then from that value, I make more money. And what happens is you get this hustle and you're like, oh, how much can I make from this one person? How much can I take from somebody?
Yeah. Very transactional.
Yeah. And when real estate agents and barbers do that, and by the way, I'm not trying to single out barbers. There's a lot of great barbers out there, but like you see like these guys are like, what makes your cut worth $100? And they're like, well, I do a great fade. Okay, well, you're supposed to, right? That's your job. What are you doing? Oh, it's about the experience. Okay, well, tell me about the experience. And same thing with real estate agents. It's like, well, what makes you like incredible? Like what's special about you? And then it's crickets. And what I found out along the way, another staircase, and we should probably just kind of keep staircasing this up, is like, oh, the person who offers the best experience wins. It's not about the person who gets in the best price. It's not about the best this, not the best anything. It's about who can deliver the best experience. Because that's all we're really looking for these days. In the world we live in today, when you say be more human more often, and I compliment for you having that ideology, because that is absolutely it. Nobody cares for information anymore, because information is $20 a month. You get all the information, all the encyclopedias for $20 a month with your ChatGPT. So what do people really care about? What's your experience? How do I feel when I'm around you? Do I feel safe? Do I feel secure? Do I feel sexier because I got a haircut from your barbershop, whatever?
Right.
Like, how do I feel walking into your establishment? How do I feel when I leave your establishment? How do I feel when I'm not even around you as a result of being around you? And that's what you end up getting paid for. And it's interesting because we see this model all the time. Like, how do we create a better experience? But it's hard until it's easy. When it becomes easy, it just becomes part of who you are. And then people just they just want to experience that with you, and they're willing to pay you extraordinarily more.
I'm a big Disney fan, as you know. My background is worked at Disney for 12 years at a high level, served as a Walt Disney World ambassador, which is a program that Walt Disney himself created. He selected the very first Disney ambassador back in 1965, back at Disneyland, California. But there's a movie that just recently came out. It was kind of a documentary style, if you will, but it's called Disneyland Handcrafted. And it shows the behind the scenes of Disneyland under construction. And you see, like, all of these were silent pieces of film that had no original audio, but Disney recently got together with Skywalker Studios, and put sound to it. So you can hear like Walt Disney walking across the orange groves as he's mapping out where Disneyland is going to go, where the castle is going to go. So cool. They put color to it and everything. And if you know anything about the construction of Disneyland, like, they did all of that in a year. And what they were able to pull off was nothing short of what most people called impossible. There were a lot of things that did not go right when it finally opened. However, Walt Disney's biggest thing was they have to have a great experience. Everything may not go perfectly, but he's quoted by saying, make sure they leave smiling. And so, as you're talking about like building a business and scaling, and you're not going to know all of the pieces to put into place, and you're going to bump into some stuff along the way. But that doesn't stop us from going forward. It doesn't stop us from making sure that we're not being transactional, and make sure that we are being relational, and making sure that that experience matters, because it does. That's what determines whether or not you have the legacy, or, if it was good for a while, grand opening, grand closing, like we like to say, right?
My first experience in Florida was like 6 years after Disney opened in Orlando. My dad in his Chevy Nova, I had two brothers at the time, and my grandmother and my mom, my dad drove to Florida. We had never left the city before that. And we came through this thing called Disney World and went through the lines, and it was amazing. And it was our first thing that my dad decided that we were going to leave the state of Florida to do. And it was a road trip, and we made sandwiches in the engine and stuff like that. And he ate hot dogs, stuff like that. But it was an amazing thing for us to take that trip as a family. And it was a vision that somebody had that probably was imperfect at the time, but it was something that drew billions of people probably throughout the world today to go see. I mean, that empire was completely built on how do we make the consumer experience exceptional? Not how do we charge the most?
Right. Because to your point, they will pay. I mean, the price of Disney tickets don't go down.
It ain't cheap.
It ain't cheap. And it's only gotten,
Less
more
cheap.
expensive. Yeah, exactly. Less cheap as we've continued. But they're always offering more. And there's always something there for someone. So I try to bring, with my real estate business, my goal is always to bring the Disney guest service into the real estate transaction. And that's what I'm building towards as I'm putting systems in place and focusing on the experience. Well, speaking of experience, let's switch gears really quick.
For me, my customer isn't as much the client itself. My customer is the real estate agent.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about the experience that my real estate agents who are looking to grow their business, when they join me, they're better because they're there. I'm not so much doing as many transactions with the actual end-off consumer anymore, but I'm training those agents who are saying, you know what, I'm done just going through this and just trying to do this on my own. I want guidance. I want support. I want training. I want mentorship. I want to be great. I know I'm capable of it, but just put me in there. And I've done this. I've taken hordes of agents through my system and put them through. And I was like, listen, this is a proven, repeatable system. You follow this system And unless you try to fake it, like if you put your effort into this, you're going to get a result because it's a byproduct of doing the right things at the right times. So that's the experience I'm trying to give them. We give it to them by, through celebration, education, inspiration. We do that through mentorship, through ground knuckles training. Like we're not just here to learn what a script says. We need to understand what energy we're trying to have inside so we can transfer that energy, which is what sales is. And we do that at a very high level. That's how we were able to get to where we're at right now.
I'm glad you went there because that's where I wanted to go, switching gears. We're talking a lot about clients, but as we're talking about agents now, a lot of people know that you're at eXp Realty, but a lot of people know that eXp Realty is a cloud-based brokerage and does that extremely well at a high level across over 27 different countries. We're in all 50 states and all that good stuff. However, we have more of a hybrid model. Our group here in Orlando has a hybrid model that you've created through a culture center. So talk a little bit about what that culture center is. How are we leveraging kind of an office format where you don't have to be in the office every day and all this kind of stuff like a lot of traditional offices, but we have this hybrid model that works extremely well. And as a result, we have some huge high level players in our office.
Yeah, it's working so well. We had to basically shut down our office at 12 years to go to a building that's 3 times the size of the building that we're in. We realized that, there's a lot of people that are like me. They need a little bit of see and touch. Like I know I can learn some stuff on YouTube. I know I can go in there and I can learn some stuff by watching a video and things of that nature, but that's not my best way of learning. Like, to be very frank with you, like I need to be involved. I need some human interaction.
Yeah.
I need to feel like I understand what's going on. I need to be in an environment where other people are winning. So we built this culture center, not a brokerage, not where there's training. I feel like brokerage is where agents go, where they think what they want is training, but training is the lowest form of understanding. What you really want is you want to be able to see and touch and feel everything that winning has. And it's just not information. Training is just information. You can get information anywhere. You can read a text and get information, but what a culture center gives you is the environment of winning. In a culture center, like we have at 11 South Bumby, which is opening up in just a few short weeks, it is a leadership development disguised as a real estate brokerage. Because being a realtor is so much more than just transactional sales of a buyer and seller. You've got to be able to explore what is the human needs that the consumer wants. There are real life skills that you need to learn that you just can't learn by understanding what a CMA is or just understanding what MLS. And unfortunately, and I was a broker, and it's the reason why I even designed culture centers. This is the genesis of why I was so disgusted with all the brokers that were out there at the time when I was a broker. When I first got my license as a broker, I really wanted to go to this broker breakfast, and they used to do it at the board. And I was so excited that I got my ticket to get in. It was exclusive just for brokers. And I went in there and I was like, they had like donuts and people were smoking outside and things of that nature. And I was like, they're making fun of me because I was all excited and energized to be there. And they're like, look at this guy. And they're like, encircle me. And they're like, this guy thinks he's going to do something. It's like, dude, let me just let you a little secret. Real estate agents are a dime a dozen. The lead generation that everybody talks about for the traditional brokerage, and I'm talking all those big box brokerages, it's you. They use you. They throw you against the wall. They're going to take away your family, your friends, your relationships, and then you're going to die like the other 87%. And I was not going to be on that wheel. I was not going to be part of that treadmill, I should say. I was just like, this is wrong. I don't like it. I can't be part of it. So I moved away from that brokerage model and I went to building a culture center, a world where agents could have a high success rate, a world where agents can get leads, they can get camaraderie, they can get a feeling of inclusiveness, they can get a feeling of understanding how to be a better father, a better mother, a better spouse, a better person. And that is more valuable for the consumer. And when we pegged in on that, we realized we changed the entire industry. These culture centers, which was a new idea, got shunned by traditional brokerages, and now they're trying to kind of copy our style, which is funny. We've had the opportunity to expand to the largest building we've ever moved to in 11 South Bumby. Mid-March is going to be there. If you're interested in learning more about a culture center, reach out to Mike. He's got all the information about it. But I'm telling you right now, if you're serious about your business, about being an actual entrepreneur, not just some realtor, You don't want to just be a realtor. I want you to be an investor. I want you to build wealth and generational wealth. And you can do that through real estate. You can do that by helping others, but you have to know how to make money so you can spend money on things that make you money. You know how to be disciplined. And these are the things that we work on. These aren't just words we use. These are things that we live by in our culture center. So it's at 11 South Bumby Avenue. We'll be opening mid-March. And I invite you to come by, take a look at it, and get a feel for what that different feeling is, rather than just joining a brokerage where you're underneath a broker. At the culture center, you're the magic.
That's right.
You're the person.
Yeah. It was a game changer for my business. I started out as this kind of lone wolf trying to figure this thing out myself. And then, like you said, you go into this culture center and you got solo agents, you got different teams, you have team leaders, you got people who are just absolutely crushing it. You got some people who are trying to figure this thing out. But fast forward now, we got agents who were brand new agents only, 6 years ago, who are now developing townhome communities.
We've started the culture center. There's never been a 35 under 35 where I haven't had the majority of the people from one brokerage from our model inside there. We routinely have up and coming rising stars. We routinely win the majority of our unfair share of awards every single year by our board, by the different associations and things of that nature. And it's a testament of the community. It's not me. It's not any one thing or anything like that. It's the community of mindset of winners that want more and are willing to do more to be there.
That's right. That's right. Hey, I want to move on to a lightning round. This is quick answers, no overthinking. All right. Here we go. Organic or paid leads?
I'm a paid lead guy.
Yeah. You've been doing paid leads for a long time.
On that one.
Go ahead. Jump in.
Listen, I think organic leads are great, but you cannot scale to Walmart level CEO level with just organic leads. At some point, you need a bigger network, and you might have to buy it, and there's nothing wrong with investing in your business.
That's a good point. Yeah, for projection, you can't project a business that's just kind of coming to you and paying for the leads and having your KPIs and knowing what it is that you're tracking. That changes things.
Yeah. I think early on it's honorable to have a business where you never paid for a lead. Great. No worries. I pay for them. And I guarantee you I get some of your leads too.
That's right. All right. First hire, transaction coordinator, ISA, or marketing assistant?
That's a really good one. It really depends on what type of business you have. I'm going to say the very first person you hire is a TC. It's the lowest cost help you can get.
Yeah. And they only get paid when you get paid.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best part.
Yeah.
All right. One KPI that you check every week.
How many calls we make? What's our outreach?
Okay.
I can absolutely tell you based on our outreach what our next month's results are going to be.
Now, are we checking calls or checking conversations?
So there are calls and there are conversations. The metric that I count inside those calls is how many 2-minute conversations or longer we're having. It's the golden 2 minutes. If you're having a conversation with somebody that's longer than 2 minutes, what you're doing, you've got to a spot where you've asked them questions and they're filling in the gaps. When they're filling in the gaps, you have a quality conversation. So you're going to have to make X amount of calls to find those people who, by the way, almost all the people that you're calling want what you want. Right? They want more. We sell more. We don't sell houses. We sell more. Everybody wants more, but you have to catch them at the right time. I can call somebody who they got a flat tire and they need a new tire, and I can call them to sell them a new tire, but I call them, but their kids messing around, stuff like that. They can't take the call. I could be in front of their house ready with the tools to change the flat tire, the pain that they have. But if I don't catch them at the right mindset, they don't pick up the phone, then I can't sell them. So sometimes it's about how many calls are you going to make to be able to get to that quality conversation at the quality time.
That's good. Most expensive early mistake that you made?
If you want to be real, like the real answer is not believing in myself. I say that because when you don't believe in yourself to the fullest limit, you put limits on yourself and you think good is actually great. And I remember I used to have the goal, if I could do $100,000 a year, I'm killing it. And I think to myself, that guy right now has no clue, because $100,000 a year, you can do that doing 8 or 9 sales a year. So believing in yourself, what's actually possible when you unlock yourself, when you say, well, if everything was possible, then what would I do? And start working inside that realm, you start really unlocking yourself. I wasted a lot of years doing $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, probably 8, 10 years doing that number. doing $250,000, $300,000 when I thought I was killing it. And why did I kill that? Because I was judging myself not based on what I was potentially able to do. And here's the big part. I wasn't judging myself based on what I potentially could do. I was judging myself based on the people that were around me. And frankly, nobody in my family was making $200,000 a year.
There you go.
None of the people in my crappy brokerage I was in was making 200, 300. The broker himself might have been making $300,000 a year, but I wasn't sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I was the top of the mountain. But I realized I was playing on a small team. And when I moved to a big team like EXP, the biggest team in the world, I realized, oh, there's a lot more potential I haven't untapped yet. I need to start studying again. I need to start really understanding what I can do with the open road that I've allowed myself to play in now.
That's good. And you're unlocking that path for other agents to make sure that they start thinking that way early, not having to wait until they're later in life to figure that out. I love that.
Yeah, that was my biggest mistake. I didn't really start figuring stuff out till like my late 30s. Like up until that point, I think those are my loser years, right? Like not that everything I did was a loser, but because I was making decent money. From 30 years old, I've been making 100 grand a year. 25 years old, I made 100 grand a year or close to it at that time. But I was broke every year at the end of the year, no matter how much money I made. So it wasn't until I understood was like some of that money's got to come into next year for you to build wealth. Like you can't spend all the
truth.
You can't spend all your money.
It can't be Groundhog Day every year.
I started investing and I started realizing, oh, I can take $1 and I could put that dollar to work and it works 24 hours while I work 24 hours. If I take $2, I put my $2 to work, or $200 or $2,000 and put that to work, it works alongside me. And we didn't even talk about like money leverage, but that's probably the biggest leverage play you could play.
Yeah. Yeah. What's a non-negotiable daily habit you have?
Peace.
Peace is a habit?
Peace is a habit. I strive for peace. I try to get it first thing in the morning. Once in a blue moon, that gets interrupted. But my peace in the morning is definitely correlated to how great I do in the day. So I take some time to wake up before everybody else in my family, or at least to be around so I can have my little black juice of magic here with my coffee. And I spend some time just praising in gratitude, spend some time with my creator, and I just spend some time thinking. I take my thoughts and I have some coffee, and that takes me like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. But like, it's probably the most important part of the day. You know what I used to do? I said, get up and run. Just get up and run, get in traffic. And now like,
oh, not actually run, but like hop in the car and go start your day.
Go do something. Yeah. And now I get more things by doing more reflection, by spending some time in gratitude of those things that I've received. And I said this recently, like blessings that are not counted get subtracted. And you have to be very, very aware that like you have to honor every blessing you get. Small blessings, big blessings, doesn't really matter, but you have to honor them to allow the growth fuel, that miracle growth, for more blessings to come in. If you're not fertilizing the blessings you got, forget the farmer blessing. You're not gonna have a legacy of blessings. So that is probably my non-negotiable. I have to have some time where I can just have peace. And
That's
peace
good.
for me is a little bit of time where I can be silent, where I can be peaceful, where I can be in gratitude, and I can experience love.
That reflection is so important. What's a book that shaped your leadership?
You know, it's funny. Every year I think that this is the best book of all time.
Funny how that works.
Yeah. So, you know,
I remember you had us reading The Magic of Thinking Big. You were like, this is the book. You got to read it every year. And then I think the next year there was
there's always which book. Like there's a book right here over my shoulder here. It's called Chase the Lion. And I'll tell you, that's a great book because it's an easy read. Because people will tell you to read a book like Think and Grow Rich, or they'll tell you to read the Bible. These are complicated books. It's not a starter level book to me. Like that Chase the Lion, if your dreams don't scare you, it's too small. It's a great storybook, but it teaches you like to think differently. You have to learn how to think differently because you were programmed to think linear and you need to think geometrically. You need to think in expansive thoughts that encircle the universe. When you put a thought out there, you need to understand that your thoughts can encircle the universe and come back to you with wisdom. We were taught to be in school to go from class to class in a very linear and a time clock grid. That doesn't allow for greatness.
Single file line.
Yeah. So like you have to teach your mind how to expand. It's not a natural thing for us to think in a linear sense, but we were trained and forced to do that as children. And there's a place for school and things of that nature, but you do need to find a way to start thinking. Like, ask yourself, how many times do you actually think? And you'd be surprised. I ask this to men all the time, and they're like, how much did you think today? And they're just a series of patterns. You didn't think about shit today.
Yeah.
We just did the same thing you did yesterday, or some relationship, some correlation from the last thought, and there's not a progressive or new thought in your head that day. And shame on you that you allowed the dawn to happen, the dusk to happen without a new thought.
That's good, man. All right, final question. Give me one word describing 2030 Gil Ramos.
Oh, 4 years away. If you just said 2034, it'd be different. The 2035 word's retired, by the way.
Oh, is it? Okay. All right.
To 2030, my wife and I have strategic plans. So 2030, the word's liquid. So at that point, we're moving our investments into different positions. So we're winding things down. We're going away from the accumulation phase.
Which you guys have been buying real estate, rental properties.
At 2030, that's the last year we're buying a property. So we'll buy no more properties probably.
But I mean, leading up to that, for the audience, leading up to that, you guys have been buying rental properties, at least one or two every year.
Every year.
The last, however
and
long,
I don't
right?
flip, I don't sell. We just acquire.
Yeah,
right?
long-term holds.
We're accumulation. I learned that from a buddy of mine, or was a customer of mine. He passed away, and he never sold anything his entire life. He acquired like a house for $11,000. It was worth like $900,000. My father told me this when I was young. I didn't understand it. Money gets cheaper over time. What's expensive today that you think is expensive becomes cheap over time. Manhattan, I'm sure, like in the 1950s, was super expensive. It was super expensive in the 70s. It was super expensive in the 90s. It was super expensive in 2000. It's super expensive now. But if you look at it in 2060, it'll probably be pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So just buy things that are going to get more expensive and you win. Whenever you spend your dollar, if you only got $1 to spend it on something that can make you two. You understand that. The game be very easy. I didn't do that before. I spent money on things that I consumed. I spent money on things that lost money over time, like a car. Like, I wouldn't say I'm a shrewd nut on spending money like that. I spend money on magical experiences because I think that adds value. But like, I spend money on love, I spend money on life, and I spend money on legacy.
Those are the things that matter. Here's what stands out. Gil didn't just build transactions. He built trust. He didn't just build a team. He built infrastructure. He didn't just post content. He built authority. And if you're listening right now, the question isn't whether you can scale. The question is whether you're building leverage or just doing the activities. If this episode challenged you even just a bit, share it with another agent who's still chasing leads instead of actually building a brand. And if you're serious about becoming the kind of operator that scales without burnout, you're in the right room, baby. This is the Leverage Lounge. I'm Mike Collier, and we'll see you next time.